Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. It is gameplay time for Rock of Chickamauga. This is, of course, designed by Hermann Luttmann and published by Flying Pig Games. It is the second game in the Black Swan series, following A Most Fearful Sacrifice, which covered the Battle of Gettysburg. This, of course, is the Battle of Chickamauga. And so we're just going to jump into the comprehensive example of play. Now, what you're looking at here is the setup for Scenario 10. I am using the central or center map here. And this covers about, I would guess, 40% or so of that map. And this will begin with the 9 a.m. turn for Scenario number 10, which is Long Street Attacks. Now, the game, the example of play here, will provide us with the die roll results. The game uses a black, white, and red dice, black, white, red. And you read them in that order, and that will let you figure out all the die rolls. Okay. So this, there is the disclaimer that the example below is not meant to show preferred play techniques, but rather is demonstrating game flow and mechanics. We are using two optional rules: the Fateful Order, which forces Wood's Union Division to make his historic move, and Longstreet's Attack Delay, which freezes Longstreet's forces for the 9 and 10 a.m. turns, which was Longstreet historically preparing to launch his attack. So in the example, they use players Malachi or Mal and Patricia, or Patty. So Mal is the rebels and Patty is the Union forces. I may or may not refer to the written characters, so to speak, in the example here. But yeah, so you can see the setup here. So we have the more developed log works on this side for the Union. Obviously, the Union is the blue, and the gray would, of course, be the Confederates. And then you have the more hasty works down here. But they do have some level of entrenchment going on here. Okay, so first thing we do is the command decision phase. And that just involves setting up here on our Union command displays and our Confederate command displays. Now, the Union in the game, they have three, one for each corps. So you have Thomas's 14th Corps, McCook's 20th Corps, Crittenden's 21st Corps, and then you also have the Cavalry Corps under Mitchell and the Reserve Corps under Granger. Now, the way the game works is the commanders here in this phase will set up the order in which their divisions will be activated. And this is an important step. And as it says here in the example, divisional card setup is important in any Black Swan game. And in the case of Chickamauga, the Union player has to pay close attention to his choices. Now, at the start of the scenario, the Confederate choices are fairly simple. I didn't run down theirs, but they have Buckner's Corps, Hood's Corps, Polk's Corps, Hill's Corps, Walker's Reserve Corps. They also have the two cavalry corps, one under Forrest and one under Wheeler. Okay, so the Confederate choices, as I mentioned, are simple, relatively speaking. We have Hood, who will place Johnson first, as he is on the front lines or in the front lines. Law is second, even though he's frozen till 11 p.m. per the special scenario rule. And Kershaw is third and is also frozen. Now, I didn't go through the scenario setup and all that stuff, largely for time reasons. I'd rather show you the game being played than go through scenario setup. I understand if you do not have the game, you may not know of things. I will try to note them as they come up. In the case of what I just mentioned, you do have some forces that are frozen by special rule, so they cannot move until after the 11 a.m. turn, which is turn 3. Okay, 1 hour turns. 9 a.m. is the first turn. All right, so we have Hood places Johnson first, then Law second, and Kershaw third. Buckner only has one choice, which is Stewart. Polk also only has one choice, Hindman. And D.H. Hill has Breckenridge in his first slot because he gets a pre-turn move, which is also part of the scenario special rules. So it makes sense to keep him going. And Cleburne gets the second slot. Now for the Union, the choices are not quite as simple. McCook, okay, so this is the 20th Corps. McCook has Johnson first and Davis second, though they could easily be swapped. Crittenden has more choices, but in this case, Patty elects to put Palmer in the first slot, Van Cleve second, and then poor Wood goes in the third spot, mainly because Wood is going to move under the fateful order, and we'll talk about that a little bit once we get to it. Then we come to the real decision, which is what to do with Thomas's 14th Corps. Thomas, of course, is the titular character of the game's name. He is the Rock of Chickamauga, although he had not earned that nickname yet. But he is kind of key to their defense in this scenario. He's the key figure in the whole game, basically. But anyway, the divisional format or list of order here for Thomas is important. So he's going to put Reynolds first and Brannan second. She's hoping to move, she being Patty, our fictional player here, she's hoping to move these forces from behind the Union front lines and have them support the exposed Union flanks. So they're all color-coded on here. And you can see, these are Brannan's forces right here, for example. You can see BR, that's Brannan. And Reynolds is purple, and I think he's under some of the works markers here. But you can see on the counters, if I were to pick this up here, you've got this unit here, 14th under Stanley. And NG is the commander, which is Neagley. And Neagley, speaking of, he ends up going 4th out of the 4 divisions under Thomas's Corps, with Baird going 3rd. So then we go to our pre-turn phase. So this is a special scenario rule for this particular scenario. Breckenridge gets a pre-turn activation, and Mal is going to use it to try to turn the Union's northern flank. He activates Breckenridge's infantry units first and gives them an attack order. So the area we are looking at here on the map, these are Breckenridge's forces right here. The artillery is at the top there behind the regular infantry. But you can see them right here, and this is the northern flank of the Union position. So you can see they've got some works here, but these guys out at the edge, which are 14th Corps under Neagley, they are kind of hanging out without any fortifications, so they are probably a little bit more vulnerable than at the opposite end of the line, where they have hasty works extended all the way through to the end of their line. So it is the fire combat step and the atom step stack of 3 units, which is this one right here, wants to fire at Beatty's forces, which are here, but does not have line of sight because, as you can see, we've got woods in there. There's a lot of wooded terrain in this battle. Stovall is able to issue fire and does so at Bridges' artillery unit in hex 3020, but 9 strength points at long range with an obstructed line of sight and the target unit in a ditch is too many shifts to overcome, and the fire has no effect. So what we're talking about here is Stovall's stack. Here's the artillery that he was targeting, and this obstructs line of sight. There's an elevation difference. They're in a ditch, as is mentioned, and so the fire is ultimately ineffective, as it also mentions. Now we go to the movement step. Adams in his 10-4, which is this guy right here, will expend 2 movement points to go to 2818, or 20, does it say 29? It says 2818, which is here. Okay. Upon entering, and then 2819, which is here. And upon entering that last hex, it engages Bridges' artillery and the Union cannon get defensive fire. So he's shooting again at the artillery there. So they get 3 strength points, which is what they have there, 3M. Okay, 3 strength points With mixed canister fire, they get a 1-column shift to the right, and the target is in a ditch, which is a 1-column shift to the left. So it is the 3-column on the CRT. So let's just go over real quick how combat is resolved. So here's our combat result table. Now we rolled a 2-3-2 is what the book tells us, okay? So strength is 3, and a 2-3 is right here. So again, it's black, white, red, right? And you might say, well, where's the red? Well, we'll get to that in a moment. 2-3 in column 3 is NE. Now you come down here to the cohesion test, and the red die was a 2. Which is an NE. And you always check that because, as the example mentions, there are these FFs in here, which is a firefight result. So we may see that later on in the example, but I do want to mention it here. Okay, so now Stovall moves into 29-18 and stops. So Stovall is up here, and he's going to move here. And this unit does not get defensive fire as Union troops are engaged by Adams. And then Helm will move to 30-18 and then 29-17. That's a total of 5 movement points. So he will move to 30-18, which is here. And then 29-17, which I think is where Adams' other men are, yes. Okay, so now for the assault combat step, Adam's stack of 3 units, which I did not move. It only said 2-4, I thought. Anyway, all right, we're just going to move these here, and then these are here. I got mixed up somehow there. So his 3 units are declared the assault hex against J. Beatty's 2 units in 29-19, which is right here. And Stovall's units are in attack support, so they're right there. They're adjacent, therefore they are eligible. The Rebs have 21 strength points versus the Union's 6, so it's 3-to-1 odds. And that gives a 3-column shift to the right for their attack. You also get 2 more columns to the right for having a CR of 5. The best CR in the stack is the 10-4, but this unit also gets unit support from the other Adams unit, as this is a non-woods terrain hex against a CR of 3 of the Union troops. Mal is therefore rolling on the asterisk column, 5 asterisk column, starting on the 10+ column and shifted to the right 5 times. And we can see that here. So you see there's the 10 column, and it got shifted all the way over as far as it can go. And you can see those results are not going to be good. That's not a good spot for the Union defenders here. Patty rolls on the 6 column. Adams rolls a 1-6, and Beatty gets a 5-6, which gives both sides a T result. This is a close fight result. In the T column, you can see T down here, close fight, because they're both in the T column. So T cross T is close fight. Okay, so what that's going to give us, both players will now roll their red dice and check the close fight table. The red die rolls were 5 and 5, which you add together for a total of 10 and a battle line gap result. So this is the close fight table. You can see, and then you go to 10. You see battle line gap, and then the explanation. If the defending units are not all from the same brigade, you can see that in this case they are. If they are all from the same brigade, you add a shaken and a skedaddle 1. So Patty will need to retreat both of her units, and she goes to 29-20. And Adams will send his 10 strength unit for the breakthrough, which is the limit. 10 strength is the limit that you can do that for the breakthrough. So now he's going to have, Mal will have Adams conduct an attack or breakthrough combat on J. Beatty's fleeing units. This is resolved immediately, and Adams attacks with 10 strength points against Beatty's 6. The odds are better now for the Union. The Rebs only have a 3-2 odds benefit now, and Adams is now in a partial woods hex. So it loses unit support from its neighboring units and thus only has a cohesion rating advantage of 4-3. That's a net shift of 2 to the left or right rather, for Adams, which is the double star column, and none for Beatty. He's on the 6-7 column. Adams rolls a 2-4, and Beatty comes up short with a 1-2, which gives an R and NE result. Then that would, Beatty applies another shaken plus SK1, gets an all-unit shaken marker, which I'll put on in a moment, applied to both of the 3-3 units in the stack. And Patty has to retreat the stack 1 hex into 29-21. Adams may not break through again. They're going to retreat here. And we have the all unit shaken marker, which as you can see gives -1 strength point and cohesion rating. The same occurs on a regular shaken, but that's for an individual unit. This just applies to the whole stack. So we're going to drop that on here. I've adjusted the shot now because that ended the activation of the Breckinridge Brigade. And so now we're going to activate the Divisional Artillery Brigade. So that's Mabane and Cobb. So I had to locate Breckinridge's Divisional Artillery because they were actually under Cleburne's artillery. They're right here. So that's 2 of them, and the other one's up here. So these 2 are obviously in some pretty heavy woods. So they are going to move 1 hex northward. So that is this way. I guess they're going to move here, and I'll just stick them back under Polk's division. And then our other artillery is on a road. So they're going to get a major, that's Slocum, he's right here. They're going to get a major march order. And that's going to allow them to move from 29-16 all the way to 27-20, which is over here. So they're going to come around and go here using road movement along this way or down here and over. Either, well, they can't come within 2 of the Union, so they would have to go this way, I believe. Okay, they cannot be closer than 2 hexes from an enemy unit. Now that it concludes the preliminaries. So this all happens before the official start of the scenario, and now we go to our preliminary bombardment phase. So we zoom back out here for the preliminary bombardment phase. Now both sides can only choose 1 artillery brigade to participate in this phase, as no event cards were set aside during the command decision phase to get extra bombardment. Patty, that's the Union, goes first and selects Johnson's Division Artillery Brigade. That is right here. We have the 20th Ohio and the 5th Indiana as well. But this would be the 20th Indiana right here. And you can see Johnson and the 20th Corps. Okay, and that's a 6 mixed. I forget where the other one is, but it's going to tell us where the what it is. Since most enemy artillery is in full or thick woods, the left column shifts for cover and obscured line of sight cause the fire to be ineffective. Mal chooses Cleburne's Division Artillery Brigade, and its artillery likewise find no success. Now Cleburne is right up here. That's his divisional artillery right along this line here, which actually is not in the shot. Let me zoom out. Cleburne's artillery is right here. Okay, so they also are ineffective against the tough log works of the Union position. Now we have the card draw phase, and Patty draws, or whoever draws, because it doesn't really matter. It just goes to whichever side owns that card, essentially, right? So this is the card that was drawn, the Rally Round the Flag. It's a Union card. You can see it says play immediately, and then you have a choose one on here. You can pick a hex with 1 or more shaken units in it. If not, a thick or full woods hex, remove all shaken markers. If thick or full woods hex, each unit rolls a die against its modified cohesion rating. And if it is less than or equal to that, you remove the shaken. And if it is greater than the CR, it remains shaken. Or select a hex with 1 or more battle-worn Union units in it. And if that is a clear or partial wood hex only, thick and full wood hexes are ineligible. For each such unit, roll a die against its modified CR. And again, if it's less than or equal, you flip it to the fresh side. And you keep its marker if it's shaken as well. You keep the shaken marker. And if its die roll is greater than the CR, the unit remains battle-worn. Okay? So what she elects to do is the all units shaken counter gets removed from our buddies down here. They are in a clear hex, so they can remove this marker automatically without having to roll against their CR because they are not in a thick or full woods hex. Okay, so then this card would get discarded, and we would go to the next one, which is Casey's Tactics. That's the next card drawn. And so this one, you see, choose one, and it can be held. Play before Union infantry or dismounted cavalry units only. Conducts a fire combat. The fire combat starting column may be the first asterisk column, or play before Union infantry or dismounted cavalry in any hex conduct movement. So since she doesn't have anybody activated, she probably is going to hold on to this, I would think, right? She's going to hold this card for future use. That makes complete sense. Then you get Hot-Headed Rebels, which is this guy right here. It's another Union card. Okay, play on any one, and it's a play immediately, so we have to resolve it. Play on any one non-artillery Confederate unit within 2 hexes and line of sight of a Union unit. Move that rebel unit adjacent to the Union unit, unless already adjacent, and resolve any defensive fire normally. The rebel must then conduct an immediate assault combat against that hex if more than one eligible target hex the Union player decides which hex is attacked. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So this is our 3rd straight Union event card draw, and a tough card for the rebels under these circumstances because of all the fortifications that the Union has. So Patty's going to choose L.E. Polk's 7-4 unit in 3417. So 3417 is up here. That's 7-4 right there on top. Move it to 3317 and then 3318 and have it charge the Union Log Works in 3319. So that's these guys right down here. So they're going to move here, and then they're going to charge these fine fellows over here. It's a true into the Valley of Death assault, surrounded by 3 adjacent Union stacks, right? One. Well, yeah, there's a bunch of Union stacks around there. So you've got basically 1, 2, 3, all sitting right there. So you've got Starkweather's. Well, I guess I could show you all these. I don't want to unstack everything, but you've got a bunch of units here. There's artillery there, but you've got Baldwin and Starkweather right there. Then you've got more Baldwin over here, also Starkweather. Got some battle-worn ones in here as well. Anyway, I'll run it through for you. You've got Starkweather 7-4, Baldwin's 9-3, and the 5th Indiana Artillery. That's in the hex, target hex right there. So they are awaiting Polk's charge. Defensive fire is 22 strength points, and this would normally start only on the 10+ column, but Patty plays her Casey's Tactics card right here that we drew a moment ago, which is going to give them some benefit here. The starting column is instead the single asterisk column. The charging rebels are a target in full woods. That's a shift to the left of 1 column. And the battery is mixed at canister range, which is a 1 column shift to the right. So the column remains the same. Patty rolls 5, 3, 1, which is an S result, and the red 1 plus L.E. Polk's cohesion rating of 4 is now 5, and that gives a DPSK3 in parentheses result. So again, if we look here on the CRT, just to kind of show you how this was resolved, you've got 5, 3, which would be here, all the way over here in the 1 asterisk column, which you can see is an S. So then you come down here, and as we said, we're going to be a 5 because of the 1 plus the cohesion rating of the defender, or the attacker, I mean, because essentially they're the defender in this instance because they are being attacked by defensive fire. We go all the way over to the S column, which is here, and you can see the DP SK3. DP, okay, means you flip right there. You flip to the battle-worn side and remove any shaken marker. If already battle-worn, keep any shaken marker, and the unit takes a break test. And then the SK number, as we know, is a skedaddle number, so they're going to have to retreat 3 hexes. All right, so the charging Rebs become battle-worn, flipping the counter over, and then it retreats 3 hexes to 3315, which is all the way up here. So now they are on their battle-worn side, as designated by that nice little white triangle in the corner. And they go right here, which is, yeah, it's still in shot. Okay. All right. The Rebels took some hot fire and then got smart, skedaddling before the other Union units could bear down on them. Next card drawn is the Rock of Chickamauga. This is a 4th straight Union card. There's another hold card. Play on any unit hex targeted by fire combat or defending in an assault combat attack. After the combat dice are rolled, you may force the Confederate player to re-roll all or some of those dice of any color. The re-rolled dice result must be kept. Okay, so Patty will hold that. And we have, now we draw a core activation card, our first one. And here it is. And it says, Mal is now wondering if there are any Confederate cards in this deck, because this is a Union card again. 5 in a row, 21st core, and you can see the die roll here for the 6 possible things that can happen here, right? And you can see division priority 1 would get activated on a 1 through 4. A 5 and a 6 would give you both 1 and 2 to activate. So that's pretty good for Crittenden. Now, Crittenden has Palmer, Van Cleve, and Wood under his command. So let's walk through here. Mal, of course, as I just mentioned, is starting to wonder if there are any Confederate cards in this deck. A roll of 3-1 on Crittenden's core activation card means that DP number 1 is activated. That would be Palmer, but with only 1 brigade or 1 hex of artillery. Patty opts for the 1 brigade and chooses Grose's brigade in 3520. 3520 is right here. And there's Grose's brigade, and you can see under Palmer, PM. Okay, let's put them on top of the artillery. So they have a 9-3, a 4-3, and a 3-3. Put them there. These guys are now activated. And gives them a maneuver order. She wants them to advance to the Brock Farm at hex 3023, as Rosecrans and Thomas want to cover as many gaps in their line as possible. So 3023 is heading this way. Okay, 3023 is all the way over here. So, and you can see it says Brock on there. It's Brock's farm. Okay, so with a maneuver order. Okay, so Gross has 3 units. All right, and so you're going to move. We'll move the 3-3 first, which will go to 3420. 3420 is next door. Up here, actually. Now, there is a road under there. Got everything here kind of messed up a little bit because we have an available fire for Willick there. So let's just move this here because that's how it was supposed to be stacked up. So he's going to move here. Okay, and it's greater than 10 strength points in the hex as we're moving through. Then 3320, which costs a half movement point. That's here, where this divisional artillery is. Then 3220 for 2 movement points here. Again, that is a full woods hex with more than 10 strength points. Then 3120, which is here, which is again a half a movement point. 3121, which is here, half movement point. 3122, here, half movement point. And then 3023 for half a movement point. So he ends up right there where we were targeting him to be. Okay, so 4-3 has the same path and costs, so we're just going to drop him right on there. And then our big boy, the 9-3, okay, he's going to go 3420, just the same as everybody else, which is 1 SP, or 1 movement point, sorry. Then 3320 for 2 again. Then because of the partial woods, and so instead of a half point, because his strength pushes this over 10 because he's a 9 strength point unit. So he ends up having to pay 2 movement points for 3220, 1 for 3120. So he's over here now. Half for 3121 because it's empty on a road. 3122 is also a half. And may not enter 3023 because the 2 movement points to enter the ditch hex and more than 10 SP because there's already 7 there and he would make it 16. So he stops in 3023. No, he stops in 3122. He can't enter 3023 right there where his cohorts are. So he's going to stop right here. And that would be that. Okay. Now we draw finally for the Confederates, we draw a Longstreet activation card. And it's the CIC card, which is this one right here. Okay. Hold card and choose one of the following 2 CIC actions when eligible. Before a new card is drawn, activate 1 division from the left wing and increase the command table die roll by 1. Immediately after any card, is drawn for either side, you may instead have that card placed at the bottom of the draw deck and draw a new card. Okay, so we get a card for the Confederates at last, in their opinion, right? And what we see here is since they are using the fateful order, Longstreet is frozen. Scenario optional rule. Longstreet doesn't have anything to do yet, and so the card actually gets discarded with no effect. Unfortunately for them, they lose this card for now. And we move on to the next card, which is a Hood Corps activation card. And that's this guy right here. Okay, so you see you've got same kind of stuff here with the various activation stuff, right? So we have to do our die roll. So again, because of the scenario rule, this card is discarded. Longstreet took his time getting ready to hit Rosecrans with a sledgehammer blow. Again, due to the scenario rule, which reflects Longstreet's over preparation, perhaps you may say, he doesn't get to play this card. So now we have another card that's drawn from the Union side, which is the Colonel is down. Another good card for the Union. It says play on any Confederate unit. The Rebel player must roll a die against the modified cohesion rating of that unit. Less than or equal, no effect. Above, shaken result. So we could have a Colonel down, which will cause a shaken result on the Confederate. So Patty is going to play this on the Adams 10-4, which is right here, one that caused a little bit of havoc there just a moment ago. And the die roll is 2 and ineffective, and therefore nothing happens. Now, in keeping with the way things have been going for the Confederates, draw a good ground card for the Union, and they can hold it. Okay, which you would then play before a new card is drawn, and you place a good ground marker with any one Union unit. If that unit only is targeted by fire combat or is the defending hex in assault combat, it applies a 2-column shift to the left for its result only. If other units are in the same hex, treat this hex as mixed deployment target. The marker remains with the unit as long as it remains in the hex. If it moves, you immediately remove the marker. Okay, so that's one she can hold. So Beatty's units are in trouble, and so Patty plays the counter on the top unit in J. Beatty's stack of troops in 2921. The marker will only apply to that one unit, as we just read. Apparently, these intrepid bluecoats found themselves a strong fence or undulation in the terrain to hide behind. Now, in this case, J. Beatty's units are identical 3-3s here, so we're just going to drop this on the top unit. They've got good ground. All right. Now, we draw again, and we get Thomas's 14th Corps activation. Okay. She gets the card and rolls a 6, which allows her to activate Thomas's 2 divisions, 1 and 2. That in this case are Reynolds and Brannan. Okay, so you have to roll. Reynolds gets an automatic 6 for his activation, and Brannan rolls a 3. Okay, so what we're talking about here is you look at the card, right? This is the division card that was activated. You have to roll on that. So we got the 6 automatically for Reynolds, okay? Because we rolled a 6 on the on here. If you see at the bottom there, under a 6, DP1 number 1 auto roll of 6. So they automatically got a 6, and then Brannan rolled a 3. And on his card, you see a 3-4 is division group plus divisional artillery brigade. All right, so those are both pretty good cards, or pretty good rolls, not terrible. All right, and so let's see what Patty's going to do here. All right, Reynolds achieves a division by brigade activation, which allows Patty to give each brigade its own order. Thomas really needs troops up north, so E. King's brigade is given a maneuver order. Both units move, okay? So they're going to move together. So King is in this hex right here, right, with a hasty works. That's the divisional artillery. So we have King, King, and King, 3 units. Right, and you can see E. King at the top and the RE indicating they are part of Reynolds' division. And there's his 3 regiments, 8-3, 4-2, and 3-2. And the divisional artillery is here, and they have hasty works. So they're going to move to 3622, which is here. So they move down, okay, which costs them 2 movement points, then 3522. So they're hitting the road here. So they're going here. Then 3423. So they're down the road again. So each of those is 1. 3322 is here. That's also 1. 3222, which is 1. And 3121, which is right here, which is also 1. So his whole stack ends up right there. Okay. Then next up is Turchin's brigade, which is given a defend order, and it blasts away at the closest rebel units. So this is Turchin. This is the hex he's in. He's got some divisional artillery with him as well. So you can see Turchin right here. Hopefully you can see that. If not, trust me, that's who that is, 9-4 and 7-4. So we've got 2 artillery units, right, here and here. So they are going to blast away at the rebels in the woods, Bate and Brown. It's actually these 2 right here. So here's Brown, here's Bate under this. So you can see right there. So they're firing in this direction, from here to there and from there to there. Let's see. Bate and Brown. Brannan chooses defend for all his brigades, and they each fire away whenever possible. Note that these last batch of formations were given a defend order because of the 1 shift to the left when issuing fire combat, or 1 shift to the right, rather, when issuing fire combat while under that order. All right, so it doesn't seem like there's anything that is affected by that, so we move on to the next thing. Next card is a Confederate card, and it is March to the Sound of the Guns, which is kind of their version of the Rock of Chickamauga. So this is play after fire combat is resolved by any unit of either side. You may immediately move any or all units of one Confederate brigade toward the artillery unit that just fired, or the infantry unit that just fired, but only if they're within 10 hexes of that firing infantry unit. Units are moved as if under a maneuver order, and they must each end their movement closer to the firing unit than they were at the start of their movement. So it's a free movement, right? It's a hold. So the rebels don't want to use this immediately, nor do they want to put themselves in a tough situation. So instead, Mao's going to use it for its default event, which is at the bottom. And I'm going to show you that here in a moment. So that is down here, and you can see default events, double time, opportunity fire, smoke, and dust. Okay, so he is going to use the smoke and dust. He moves 1 of Carlin's 5-3 units from 1221 to 1222, which is legal because it's thick woods to full woods and out of its hasty works. He's getting ready for the drive against the Union right flank. So that is, okay, so that is this unit right here. Carlin's 5-3 is right there on top. And he's moving him from 21 to 22, which is back here, and out of the hasty works, weakening that position and allowing the potentially making the Union move against the Union's right flank a little bit easier. Now we get McCook activation, and he is the 20th Corps. Now, an interesting thing is you see at the top it says inept. So when you get that, you can expect that this is not going to be as effective. You can see the roles aren't as good when you don't have a good commander. If you compare that to Thomas, who has a superior, right, you can see that McCook is nowhere near the general that Thomas is, which reflects the historical reality. So with McCook, Patty's going to roll a 2 on his card. Now, this is not a good result for her. That is a division priority 1. Okay, for McCook, that's Johnson. So Johnson's division gets an auto roll of 1. And if we look at Johnson, who is superior, he's a good general, he gets 1 brigade plus 1 hex of his divisional artillery. Okay. So she can only activate 1 of Johnson's division brigades and 1 hex of his divisional artillery. She selects Baldwin and the 5th Indiana Artillery. That is this hex right here. So under our log works, we have the 5th Indiana Artillery and Baldwin. And then underneath that is Starkweather, who actually belongs to Baird of the 14th Corps. So it's not a great activation, but they're in an area where they're basically on the front line. So they are going to fire the artillery first at LE Polk Stack in 3317. So 3317 is right here, directly in front of them, pretty much. Right now, the 5th Indiana will get a 2 shift to the left for the target being in full woods. Another 1 to the left for it being in a ditch. Another 1 to the left for its firing obscured over full woods. And another 1 to the left for M-type artillery firing at effective range. That puts the CRT column at 1. And Patty rolls 651. That's an E result. And then the red die added to the unit CR number. So 5 for one and 6 for the other. Therefore, the 4-4 unit must choose shaken or skedaddle and opts to retreat 1 hex. So they can skedaddle and they'll retreat 1 hex. And the 3-5 unit gets an NE and nothing happens. Patty activates her infantry unit, and Baldwin's 9-3 in 3319 fires at the remaining 3-5 rebel unit, which is 9 strength points on the from the firing unit, with a 2 shift to the left for long range, another 1 for being in full woods, another 1 for being in a ditch, and another 2 for firing obscured over full woods. That's the 1 column again. But Patty rolls average this time and there's no effect. Then lastly, Baldwin 7-4 takes a shot at the rebel stack of rebel artillery, but comes up with nothing as well. Okay, now we get a colonel is down on the Confederate side. So it's identical to the one we saw before from the Union. Okay, but this time the Union player has to roll a die against the cohesion rating of the unit that she chooses to use that on. Or he chooses to use that on, rather, because we're talking about Mal. Mal's going to target J. Beatty's 3-3. Right, so that's one of these guys right here. Okay. The unit's cohesion rating is a 4 right now, as it's in a non-woods hex, and the other unit is from the same brigade. So it gets a unit support bonus of +1. But a roll of 5 means that Beatty has failed anyway, and the targeted unit is given a shaken marker. So bust out the shaken marker. And we put it on the unit. Okay. Now we get Buckner's Corps activation for the Confederates. And here he is. He's average, so his die roll results are a mixed bag. Some are good, some are bad. And the die roll for him is a 2, but she rolls a 6 for Stewart, which is the only unit that's under Buckner. So he's only got the 1, and he's superior, and a 6 is going to be pretty nice. So he's got division by brigade, and then also divisional artillery brigade. So that's pretty solid for Mal and the rebels. Brown and Bate. Now we saw them before, right? They're over here. Brown and Bate is under this artillery. I should put the artillery on the bottom, just so I can easily see the infantry, since they tend to be a little bit more active typically. So they're going to fire at the nearest target. Doesn't really specify who that is. Humphrey moves up 1 hex, and then Bate assaults Turchin in hex 3620, right? So 3620 is right here. They're in Logworks. And there's Turchin under Reynolds, right? And Bate assaulted him. And Humphrey's over here, which is the artillery. Okay, so they moved up. And they are turned back with an SH plus SK1 assault combat result. So they get a shaken and a skedaddle of 1. So here's our shaken marker. And I'll just put it on one of his units here. And then they have to skedaddle 1 hex. So we'll just move them up here. And now we have Forrest's Corps is activated. So the good old Cavalry Corps under Nathan Bedford Forrest. Here's his card. Superior, you can see decent rolls here, right? And so Forrest has to guard the rebel northern flank, and Mal rolls a 2, which means Armstrong's division is activated, and the cavalry's up in this corner up here, which is somewhat out of shot right now. So a 3 on his divisional activation card is 1 brigade. Mal's going to pick Drabel, which is this guy right here. Okay. And Debrel, yep, that's his whole brigade there. Currently mounted, which means no fire combat, gives him a maneuver order. The unit's maneuver rate is 12, as they are already mounted. Each unit moves 1 by 1 and first dismounts, costing half. So that allows them to have 6 movement points remaining. So we're going to dismount everybody. I'm just going to flip them over. And it says the 4-3 moves first. So this is the 4-3. You can see the dismounted side, right? You can see them down and their guns up versus the mounted side, which looks like this, with them on their horses and charging with sabers out, right? So the 4-3 moves first, and they're going to move to 2816 and then follow the road. 2816 is here, and then they're going to follow the road to half a movement point toward the Strange Farm, which is down here, just to the left of this divisional artillery here under Breckenridge. So they're going to move down here. So that would put them, I think they get there, right? Continues 2770, 2720 rather, and joins with the artillery here under Slocum. Yep, that's Slocum's artillery. Okay, to protect them. All the other cavalry units follow the same path, must stop in 2620, because with the artillery and the Brel, that's 10 right there. So they're going to go here and then follow the road down and stop in 2620 on Strange's Farm, which I know is not really in the shot, but you get the drift. The Brel's horse artillery moves to the ridge to get a good firing position. So the horse artillery is out of shot, and it's up here, but they're going to move to the ridge, which is here, to get a shot. So they're going to go right there. Right there. Friction of War. Now, we haven't seen this yet, right? But here's Friction of War. If the next card drawn is an event, CIC, or Fog of War card, cancel it with no effect. If the next card drawn is a core activation card, the command table dice roll results automatically. A 1. Okay, nobody likes that card because it's generally not good. Okay, so it cancels the next card drawn, and Polk is the card drawn. Polk's CIC card is drawn. There you go. So this card is not going to be able to be used. And it says, typical Polk, this card is discarded with no effect. So Polk, yeah, not particularly good in that situation. But they bounce back and get D.H. Hill next. And D.H. Hill is a competent commander. Here's his card right here. So he's average, which I consider competent, right? And this is a great stroke of luck. This card comes out of the deck next. In Hill's mind, an order from Polk is just a suggestion anyway. So losing the CIC on the previous card doesn't matter to him. Mal rolls a 4. Okay, and a 4 gives us division priority number 1. And that would be Breckenridge, who was who's already been activated once, but now he gets to activate again. Okay, roll of 3 on his card. So let's look at Breckenridge's card here. It is a good, as you can see, and the 3 there is division group plus 1 hex of the divisional artillery. Okay, Breckenridge is going to get an attack order, so we're back over here again with Breckenridge. All right, so Mal elects to activate Slocum as the 1 hex of artillery, and it fires 6 strength point fire at Beatty in 2921. So that is Slocum right here, 6 as you can see. 2921 right there. Now, one of those has good ground. The other is shaken. This is through partial wood, so that's a 1 shift to the left. M artillery at effective range is 1 to the left. And the top target is in good ground, so it gets a 2 shift to the left. So that's the 2 column for the top and the 4 column for the bottom. So even though they're going to use the same die roll, you just split the results. So the unit, let's see here. We've got an E. They roll a 5, 4, 3, which is an E for the top unit and an R for the bottom. Top unit is 3 plus CR of 3 is 6. The unit's minus 1 CR for shaken, but plus 1 CR for unit support. And under E, that's a shaken skedaddle 1. The bottom union unit is the same result. Patty decides to have both units hold their ground and take the shaken results. So the top unit is flipped to its battle-worn side and the bottom gets a shaken marker. The infantry is now activated for them. That's coming up next. So he's going to be battle-worn and the bottom one is shaken. 2 shakens makes you battle-worn is the effect there. Okay, so let's see, the infantry is activated. Adams fires at Bridges in 3020. So here's Adams. Bridges is this artillery right here in 3020. Neagley has not yet been activated, so he can't move anybody yet. He gets a SH and a skedaddle 1 in parentheses. So the artillery is made shaken, and then Patty opts to have it retreat 1 hex as well to get it out of harm's way. So they're going to get a shaken marker. Stovall will fire at Beatty stack in 3119. So that is right here, and Stovall is right here. So we've got intervening woods in between. Fires long range and obscured, so no effect. For the movement step, one of the Adams 1-3 units moves into 2821 and takes weak defensive fire from J. Beatty's unit with no effect. So this one of Adams here moves to 3020. Is that right? 1-3, 2821. 2821 is down here. Okay, and then the other one follows with no defensive fire. So we just do the same thing. Now they're down here. Okay. Then the 10-4 will move into 2920. Right? The 10-4 will move here. Okay, as they continue to press this left flank. Helms 2-4 moves into 3019. So Helms is up here, moves into 3019. Oh, it's only the 2-4. Okay, hang on. Defensive fire, let's put it in the right spot. Defensive fire, 6 strength points, has the unit get a shaken, a skedaddle, result and retreat to 2919. So they would go here. Okay, shaken slash skedaddle 1. Mal then moves Helms 2-3 into the same hex and again suffer the same result. So the 2-3. Whoops, that's 3-4. 2-3 is there. Gets the same result, but elects to take the shaken instead of the skedaddle. So they get a shaken marker. Okay, and what's next? After that, the rest of Helm's unit pile into 3019, as well as all of Stovall's units except the 2-3, because the hex would then exceed 20 strength points, which is above the limit for the Confederates. So they're going to all go here, and Stovall, except the 2-3, move in there as well. And now Adams 10-4 assaults Beatty in down here. So he's going to assault that hex with 12-3 strength points. The shifts end up in the 5-star column of the CRT for the Rebs and only the 1 for the Union. Die rolls are equally hard for Patty, and she plays her held Rock of Chickamauga card. Boom. Right? You may force the Confederate player to re-roll all or some of those dice. Re-rolled result must be kept. So I'm going to take a re-roll. Here, the dice, Mal, but it was to no avail as Mal rolled almost the same result. The Union units suffer a crushed result. Both units are removed from the game, and the good ground marker is removed. So they are out. And there is a crushed box that I will put them in. And I can take the good ground and shaken markers off because they don't need to be in the crushed box. And then they can move up. Then you've got Helms and Stovall assaulting as well. 18 versus 6. That is right there. The dice give an S for the attacking Rebs and an E for the Union. The result is a shaken plus SK2 for J. Beatty's other units. So they get an all units shaken and must retreat to 30, and they retreat to 3221, passing through hex 3220. So they all have to take a panic test, but they pass thanks to the morale boost from the log works. Okay, so these guys here all have to retreat, and they end up down here, passing through there, but they did get the benefit of the log works. So they passed their panic test. All right, next card drawn is Fog of War. Okay, so this entails rolling some dice, and you can see the card here. Now we do have to roll some dice for this. And a roll of 2-6, right? So you look for 2-6, 2-3 to 3-2 is Wayward Union Movement. Choose a Union unit. That's a hard one to say. And move it 1 hex. All right. 4th Indiana Infantry is moved out of its logworks position by Mal to 3218. So here is the 4th Indiana. I've already moved it. It is now in 3218, putting it in a perilous position. All right, now we get the Thomas CIC activation. And that's right here. You can see hold card and conduct one of the following 2 CIC actions before a new card is drawn. Activate 1 division from the 14th Corps. Activate any 1 division from any corps except a cavalry division, but to decrease its command table die roll by 1. So he can activate someone else's division or one of his own. So Patty decides she wants to activate Van Cleve, but he's in the 21st Corps under Crittenden, so she's going to take a -1 on the die roll, and it becomes a 5. So 6 becomes a 5 for him, and that gives him, and here's his card, which has a little bit of a misprint. There's no 5, but we can figure it out, right? 1 brigade plus 1 hex of divisional artillery for Van Cleve. Okay, she moves Dick's brigade north around and through the logworks line. Now, it doesn't really specify where they move to because it probably doesn't really matter, but we're just going to go up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, probably an extra 1 for stacking. I'm not going to unstack. So let's say 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll put them here. Next card is Bushwhacked. They're going to use it, so they're going to play it immediately after a unit moves, right? So they are going to use this to fire the Bledsoe unit at 3921, which is down here, and that would allow them to. It's an opportunity fire with Bledsoe. This is allowed because it's not full or thick woods. So it doesn't say that there's a result, so we're going to assume it was not effective. All right, next up, we get the Rosecrans CIC. So he was the Union's overall commander. And this would allow you to activate Wilder's brigade if in play, right? So you can see there, this is a hold card, and you conduct one of the following two CIC actions. Before a new card is drawn, you can roll a die, 1 to 2. You can activate any brigade. 3 to 6, activate any one division. Immediately after any card is drawn for either side, you may instead have that card placed at the bottom of the draw deck and a new card is drawn. Okay, in this case, Patty's got a decision to make here. So she has the choice between fighting or sending troops to potential danger spots. Patty opts to roll a die and activate something. Luckily, she rolls a 6 and can pick any division to activate. She chooses Brannan's division, that's the 14th Corps, and rolls a 4, allowing a division group activation and all the artillery. She gives them an attack order and moves Vanderveer's brigade northward to the Snodgrass Hill area. Okay, so just to kind of show you what we're working with here, here is Brannan. Okay, so they did get the division by brigade and the divisional artillery brigade. And Vanderveer, so we're talking about this area right here. So here's Vanderveer, he's green. Okay, he's got a 7-4, 5-4, 4-3, and the divisional artillery. And Snodgrass Hill is here, so he's going to move north, and north is this way. They're going to move northward to Snodgrass Hill, so they're just going to move here. Croxton and Connell will open fire at the nearest Confederate units, followed by the divisional artillery batteries following suit. So again, there are no results indicated for that, but here's Connell right here. Okay, so Connell would be firing, as would Connell and Croxton, sorry. And then the divisional artillery would follow suit. Okay, so as I said, there were no indications of results, so we'll just move on because, of course, this is merely an example of play. So the next card drawn is, again, the Friction of War card, which cancels whatever follows it, right? If it's a core activation card, the command table dice roll result is automatically a 1. So that's the only way it wouldn't actually cancel it entirely. But in this case, the next card to be drawn is actually a Confederate card that Mao would really, really like to have, and that is this one, the Rebel Yell, because it allows you to pick any hex containing one or more Rebel infantry units. You may immediately move any or all such infantry units up 1 hex, providing they enter a hex adjacent to a Union-occupied hex. They are not forced to move if already adjacent, and they suffer normal defensive fire if moved. These units must then conduct an assault combat attack if eligible. There's some more stuff, but that's the general gist of it. And because of that Friction of War, guess what? It gets tossed. So that's Mal is going to, not be happy about that. Curse is allowed, as his favorite card can't be used this turn. Then we come to the next card, which is Bragg. Okay, so General Bragg. Now, he's got a hold card and conduct one of the following. It's your basic CIC stuff, right? Because he was the overall commander of the Confederate forces in this battle. And in this case, it starts off by saying Bragg is not a great leader. Feel free to argue about that. He certainly does not have a great reputation, although it is somewhat debatable. about his performance. It was uneven, let's put it that way. He had good moments and bad. But he does manage to activate Cleburne's right wing division and its artillery. Facing the Union log works and not feeling suicidal, Mal decides to shift Cleburne northeastward. His troops slog through the woods. 8 movement points are burned up quickly in thick woods and reach as far as the 32 and 33 XX hex rows. So as we saw earlier, Cleburne is over here. Okay, so northeastward would be this way. Okay, so trying to again like turn the flank here, right? Because the Rebs have made headway in this area. Now, when we talk about movement points through woods, let me bust out the terrain effects chart for you. So as you can see, woods, partial and full are 2. Thick is 3. So you're gonna expend either 2 or 3 depending, and then you see your stacking limits. The Union has a stacking limit of 25 in all terrain, it looks like, except down here in the roads. And the Confederates likewise are 20 through everything except down on roads, which makes sense, right? You can only cram so many men, horses, wagons, guns, etc., onto one piece of road. So that is entirely sensible. Okay, so we've got Cleburne here, right? He's got this whole group here, and we would move all of his men in this direction, and they would not make a lot of headway because the woods. How do you tell what's woods and what's full woods and what's thick woods? There, down here's your key. So there's partial. Now, the closer all the tree symbols are, it means thick woods. So what we've got here are full woods in this area. Thick woods, there are some, but not a lot. These are full woods. So, like, for example, if we were to move these guys here, let me make sure, yeah, CL, CL, and CL. They would be able to go 2, 4, 6, maybe 8, right? Because it said they were trying to get to the 32 and 33X hex rows, which is this row and this row. So these 2 rows. Okay, now I'm not going to actually move them because we're almost to the end of this, and I'll just leave them be for now, just for sake of time. Next card drawn is Fog of War. So we're going to roll again. This time it's a 42. You can see 42 is a wayward rebel movement. So just like we saw the Union before, Patty will choose a rebel unit and move it 1 hex, which generally turns out to be bad for the unit getting moved. Wait a minute. It says Fortunes of War, which would actually be a 43. So in the example, it says Fortunes of War. So 42, which is what it says, the die roll is still in wayward rebel movement. Fortunes of War allows you to take the Fortunes of War marker. This is the aforementioned Fortunes of War marker. On the flip side, you can see what it does. It allows you to re-roll any dice roll. Okay, so the Union would put that in pocket, which is a nice thing to have. The next card drawn is Hardy's Tactics, which is this guy right here. It's a hold card. To play before a Confederate assault combat attack only when both the assaulting hex and defending hex share the same adjacent empty hex. In that case, the defender's flank is overlapped. The defending units suffer a shift to the left, and the attacking rebel units gain a shift to the right during the assault combat. Okay, so that's a good one. But Mal's going to opt to use this for its default event, which is Opportunity Fire. You can see Opportunity Fire down there as one of the default events. Double time Opportunity Fire and Smoke and Dust. We saw them use Smoke and Dust earlier. And Bledsoe will fire at hex 3921, as it is a partial woods hex. So again, here's Bledsoe. an artillery unit, and firing at 3921 because it's partial woods, doesn't fill the entire hex. So that is that. Again, there's no real description of what happens. We're just giving examples of how you would use it and saving some time by not rolling everything out. The next card up is low ammo. Okay, again, a Confederate card. So play before any Union event, any one Union event, any one Union unit issues a fire combat. Apply a 2-column shift to the left for that fire. So that's a good one to have. Mal decides to hold the card, which will lessen the strength of Union defensive fire with the upcoming Polk Corps activation, which he knows is the last card because that's the only one that we have not yet seen. And we get the Polk card as we just saw. Actually, that's the wrong card, I think. Yep, that is the wrong card. It's not his Corps activation card. I had the wrong one. Here it is. This is the correct card. So as you can see, Polk is inept. That's pretty bad, right? But he still gets to activate his division on a roll of 3 or higher. So in this case, Mal's wishes come true as Polk's core card is drawn. Time for him to roll, and he comes up with a 1-1. As most people know, Polk should have stayed in the church and not led any troops onto the battlefield. This is Hindman's division in the division priority 1 slot, and as a consequence, he does not issue any orders, right? Because you see there, auto roll of 1. So poor Hindman is stuck. Mal's saved card is wasted. Hindman freezes, and Patty laughs as Mal's plans have just fallen apart. We reach the end phase because no player has any cards left to play, and that ends the 9 a.m. turn, and that ends our example of play. So I hope that you got something out of this. Probably made a few mistakes here and there. I did my best. This is a large scenario. You can see by looking, there are a lot of units on the map. And I felt it was worthwhile to go through this example of play. I mean, it was kindly provided for us, and I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to go through it myself. And since I was doing it for myself, I might as well do it for you guys as well, because everybody can benefit from having seen it. So, having said all of that, it is time to wrap things up. I do want to give a shout out to my subscribers. I now have 2. Tom Marshall. Did I say subscribers? Because I meant to say members. So Tom Marshall was my first member. So shout out to you, Tom. First member, and he is at the counter tier, which is tier 2. And my newest is Guardian, and he is hexed tier 1. So thank you, Guardian, as well. Those 2 are my current extent of my membership here for the Hexed Encounter channel. So thank you very much for the support. It is greatly appreciated. For everybody else, thank you for watching. And please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing, or even joining the channel if you wish to help support my efforts here. No pressure, and it does not matter one way or the other. You will still get to see all of the content, etc. For more info on that, just check out the join button below and click on it, and it'll let you watch a video and find out what's going on with that. Otherwise, we are done here, my friends. That is all. I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. Before I go, if you have any comments, questions, etc., feel free to post them so that I know your thoughts, any corrections you might see, and so on and so forth. Anything you wish to say, get it off your chest, you can feel free to post it in the comment section. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm Joe, this is Hexed Encountered, and until next time, as always, happy gaming.